Hello everyone, and in this video I would like to show you a very interactive historical chess game. In this chess game we have first of all Erich Cohn, one of the important chess masters in the early 1900s, and his opponent was Akiba Rubinstein. So first of all, let me give you a few informations about Erich Cohn. Well, he was a German chess master and he competed in many important strong chess tournaments around early 1900s. He competed until 1914. Because of the First World War. He had to stop his chess career, and unfortunately he has passed away in 1918 in the war as a field doctor. So he was pretty young when he died. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about Akiba Rubinstein. He was also a very important chess player. In fact, he is known as one of the strongest, one of the greatest chess players ever, who never became the world chess champion, just like Viktor Korchnoi and Paul Keres. Unfortunately, mental illness, poverty and world wars in a difficult time period take its toll. Unfortunately, he had a very difficult life, but he was extremely talented and one of the strongest chess players in the early 1900s. So they say, according to the many chess experts, actually around 1907 and 1914, they say Akiba Rubinstein was basically the strongest chess player in the world, especially around 1912 to 1914. They say he was capable of defeating Emanuel Lesker. Chess experts think that he was actually stronger than Emanuel Lesker, but that match never happened because of Rubinstein's poverty and because of the world wars. So that is pretty unfortunate. It would be great to see a match between Akiba Rubinstein and the great Emanuel Lesker. Of course, we all know that Emanuel Lesker was the world chess champion at that time period. So Rubinstein was especially a very talented chess player in the endgame, and he is known as a very dangerous chess player, especially in the rook-pawn endgames. So this is just one example. So in this chess game, Erich Cohn, his opponent, had the white pieces and Rubinstein had the black pieces. So Cohn starts the game with d4 and we have d5, and the game is quickly transposing into the queen's gambit accepted. And in this position, exchanging the queens at an early stage of the game, king takes on d1 and knight to c6, e3, bishop to g4, pinning the knight, and then bishop takes on c4. e6, a3, so in this position b4 is possible, defending the pawn. So Rubinstein simply captures the pawn, bishop takes on c5 and then b4, bishop to d6, bishop to b2, developing the knight. So basically white was attacking on g7, knight to d2, king to e7. So both players they lost the castling rights. So after king to e7, well, instead of castling, Rubinstein is lifting the king. White lost the castling rights. So with this move, Rubinstein is connecting to rooks, king to e2, and also white is connecting to rooks. But we can see that this knight is pinned and this looks like a very annoying pin. Bishop to e5, exchanging the bishops, and there is pressure on the knight and also attacking the bishop. Rook from h to c1, rook over, and white has to defend the bishop. Bishop to b3, rook over, and knight to c4. Well, this is actually a difficult position. Let me illustrate that. If something like king to e1, then knight to d3 is going to fork the king and the rook. This is just one possibility, of course. And if king to f1, then knight takes, not damaging the pawn structure, let's say. And then knight to e4. And I think in this position, black is threatening to capture the knight. Pawn takes bishop, and then knight to d2, forking the king and the bishop, and defending is tricky. So defending this is very tricky. We can see that black has the advantage in this position. So it looks like white can't also move the knight. Okay, so knight to c4 in this difficult position. Rubinstein simply captures the knight, and then rook takes on c4, rook takes, bishop takes, simplifying the game. And in this position, knight to e4 is a very obvious move. This is what Rubinstein played, knight to e4. And you can see that this is also looking not very comfortable for white, because black is threatening to play rook to d2. You can see that that is possible, because this knight is pinned, and then maybe capturing on f2, or simply invading the second rank. So we have king to e1, a desperate move, but simply Rubinstein captured the knight, giving up the bishop, but for a very good reason. There is a reason behind that move, and that reason is to damage the pawn structure. Now this is a slight weakness in white's camp, and white has to be careful. We can see doubled pawn structure. The h-pawn is looking isolated. H-pawn is also looking like a weakness. And Rubinstein is known for creating small weaknesses, and he was exposing those weaknesses. So he was known as a chess player who wins in small, when he had small advantages. So it is known that even a small weakness, a small error in his opponent's camp is good enough for Rubinstein to win any game. Just like Capablanca, actually, he had a similar style with Capablanca, knight to d6 and defending the bishop, and rook over, and Rubinstein gets the open file. A very logical play. So king to d2 and simply checking the king. And this knight is looking annoying, so white wants to get rid of the knight. Bishop takes on c4. Well, let's check out what happens. Well, actually in this position, maybe moving the king back is possible. Actually, that is also possible. But then this knight is looking annoying. So bishop takes on c4, rook takes on c4, and then we have a very bad move for white. What would you do in this position if you had the white pieces? Now the material is even, but white has some weaknesses in the king side, especially this doubled pawn structure is not looking good. White has more active rook. Black's rook is much more active. White is looking a little bit more passive. But in this position, actually white has a much more better move. Actually two better moves than what he did in the game. He did rook to c1. Now this move is basically putting the final nail on the coffin, and white is losing actually. So okay, it is still looking like a pretty bad position for white, but in this position white has a better move. What would you do if you had the white pieces? Now when you have a weakness in your opponent, in your camp, like doubled pawn structure and then isolated pawn, why simplifying the game? Why giving up the rook? So that move was a move with no purpose. In this position, f4 should have been considered instead of rook to c1, f4. So this move is pretty logical, blocking the rook. So swinging the rook over to h4 and targeting the pawn is possible. And how do you win in this position as black? It is not that simple. Or rook to g1, and white says, okay, you have an active rook, but my rook is also active and targeting the pawn, and white is fighting back in this position. But still, according to the computer chess engine, black is slightly better, and we know that even a slight weakness is good enough for Akiba Rubinstein to win any game. So even in this position, we can say that black has the advantage. And when you're playing against Akiba Rubinstein, winning this chess game, especially in the rook endgame, is very difficult. as Rubinstein is known as the expert and one of the strongest chess players in the endgame, and he was especially very dangerous in the rook, pawn endgames. So, okay, but at least White would have some fighting chance in this position had he played, instead of rook to c1, had he played f4 or rook to g1, I think White has some fighting chance. Okay, so engine says Black is only slightly better, not much better. So okay, game continued. Rook takes on c4 and then rook to c1, and Rubinstein happily captured the rook. Can you see what's wrong with White's position? What would you do in this position if you had the black pieces? It is Black to move, and actually Black has a very strong move. Not every move is strong in this position. Well, in the pawn endgames, the pawn moves and also the kings are becoming much more important, and the pawns, every pawn is potentially much more valuable in the pawn endgame. So you have to be wise when you're pushing the pawns and when you're playing with your king. So ideally you have to bring your king into the center and dominate your opponent's position. And in this case, Rubinstein targets the h-pawn and he is going after that pawn. He played king to f6, and White, Erich Cohn, realized the danger and they are racing towards the pawn. This is what happened. But in this position, Black also has a very nice prophylactic move. What would you do? So this shows the beautiful understanding of Akiba Rubinstein in the pawn endgame. What would you do if you had the black pieces? Can you guess the next move of Rubinstein? So if I give you a few seconds, can you see that move? Can you guess that move? Actually, even if you make a silly move like a6, that is not probably going to lose. It is not losing, of course. Throwing this game away is not easy as Black. So, but there is a very nice move in this position, and this is what Rubinstein played. e5 by Rubinstein. And with this move, he is actually playing a very nice prophylactic and a very accurate move. So White can't push the pawn. Had he played something like, I don't know, maybe b5, that looks more logical than a6. White could play f4, and it looks a little bit annoying, but after e5, White can't push the pawn because Black is going to take the pawn, and after capturing back, king to g4, and this f-pawn is going to fall. So White has few problems in this position. Let's talk about them. First of all, White has doubled pawn structure. The black king is penetrating deep into the White's position, and White's h-pawn is also looking weak. And White king is stuck, which is also very important, and being very passive on g1. So White king has to babysit this h-pawn. If Black takes this h-pawn, Black is winning the game on the spot. So this is what happened. After king to h1, we have b5. Very logical move. So fixing the b pawn and sealing the queen side. We have king to g1, and watch this. f5, boom. King to h1, g5, boom. King to g1, h5, boom. By Akiba Rubinstein. So every move is like a punch in the face. So moving the king because White is stuck. And in this position, actually e4 would be a very good move. But Rubinstein played g4. So this is also very good. e4, a very desperate move. So in this position, if Black makes something like capturing the pawn, g takes on f3, e takes on f5, and White is creating a pass pawn. But Rubinstein was not born yesterday. He played f takes on e4, f takes on e4, and then h4. King to g1, and then g3. So h takes on g3, h takes on g3, and Erich Cohn resigned. Let me show you why white resigned in this position. Let's check out some of the possible obvious continuations. If f takes on g3, then king takes on g3, and basically this e-pawn is going to fall. So in this position, if something like f3 instead of capturing the pawn, if f3, then g2, and let's say if king to f2, then king to h2, and how to stop the pawn. And in this position, after pushing the pawn, if not king to f2, if f4, then capturing the pawn, and after e5, king to g3. So obviously in this position, if white plays king to f2, king to h2, and then the g pawn is going to be queen with check. So king to g3, e6, but black is faster, and black is checkmating the white king. A very beautiful chess game by Akiba Rubinstein, and especially the last pawn moves was simply amazing. Watch this. e5, boom, b5, boom, f5, boom, g5, and boom, h5. Unbelievable. Simply amazing. He says, I am the man, I am the daddy, I am the general, I am the king, I am the emperor. I am the emperor, I am the Alexander the Great. That's what he says. So this was simply amazing. A beautiful play by Akiba Rubinstein. He simply dominates. So basically in this position, white resigned because of this very obvious continuation. So this is winning for black. Black is a pawn up, and this is just simply unplayable for white. So okay, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time with more interactive chess games. Take care and bye bye.